The baby went silent the moment the boot struck the mud floor. His mother didn't move. Milk dried on her lip. In the dark, one wrong breath could cost everything. The door slammed open, not a drunk, not a thief. A royal hunter, eyes cold, nose working like a dog. He wasn't looking for food. He was counting households, counting sons. She pressed the child tighter, feeling his ribs rise, then pause, then rise again. The hunter stepped closer. A shadow swallowed the small room. He glanced at the woven blankets, the clay jars, the sleeping mat, then at her hands. Her fingers were trembling. A cry would be simple, a cry would be honest, and honesty would kill him. So she made a choice that felt like sin. She slid the baby into a reed basket hidden under rags and shoved it toward the back wall behind the water jar. The hunter smiled like he already knew. Outside, another voice called, "Hurry! Pharaoh wants the river clean by sunrise." And the baby finally inhaled, loud. She didn't wait for the boots to leave. The moment the door creaked shut, she grabbed the basket and wrapped it in her only clean cloth. Her arms felt numb, but her mind was sharp. One rule, don't run. Running makes noise. Noise brings death. She stepped outside into the workers' alley. Night air smelled like brick dust and sweat. Far off, men shouted by the water. The river was never quiet now. She walked like she belonged there, head down, shoulders heavy, a mother carrying laundry, a woman carrying shame, anything but what she truly carried. At the riverbank, reeds hissed in the wind. She knelt behind them and opened the basket. The baby's eyes were wide, too awake, as if he understood the risk. Her hands found tar and cloth she had hidden earlier. She sealed the seams fast, fighting tears. If water got in, he would sink. If soldiers saw him, he would vanish. She pushed the basket into the reeds. It floated. Then a torchlight flickered on the water, coming closer. The torchlight slid over the water like a searching eye. She froze behind the reeds, mouth open, unable to breathe. If she moved, the reeds would shake. If the reeds shook, the basket would drift. If it drifted, it would be seen. Footsteps crunched on wet sand. A man's voice laughed. Too relaxed for a soldier. Another voice answered, higher, impatient, not guards. Women? They came closer, splashing at the edge. Linen hems lifted from the mud. Jewelry caught the flame. Noble women, out late, talking like the river belonged to them. Her heart slammed. This was worse. Soldiers might kill fast. Palace women might ask questions. One of them stopped. "Did you hear that?" she said. A tiny sound, a breath. The baby. The leader stepped into the reeds with careful feet. The basket bumped against her ankle. She looked down, eyes narrowing, then widened like she'd found treasure. She lifted it from the water. The mother's hands rose on their own, like she could grab the knight and pull it back. The woman opened the cloth. The baby's face turned toward the torchlight, and he cried, loud, angry, alive. And the noblewoman whispered, "This is a Hebrew child." The noblewoman didn't flinch from the baby's cry. She held him closer, studying his tiny fists, his dark eyes, the way he fought the air like he refused to die. Her friends leaned in, whispering. "Leave it," one said. "If it's Hebrew, it's trouble." She didn't answer. Her gaze went distant, like she was hearing another voice behind the river wind. Then she looked down again, softer. "He's beautiful," she said, as if beauty could erase the law. The hidden mother bit her lip until it bled. This was the moment the world split. If she stayed silent, she would lose him forever. If she spoke, she might die on the sand. A small figure moved beside her. Another girl, younger, eyes bright with fear and courage. The baby's sister. She had followed, barefoot, stubborn, refusing to let the basket go alone. Before the mother could stop her, the girl stood up and stepped into the torchlight. "Shall I go?" she said fast, voice shaking but clear. and call a nurse from the Hebrew women to feed the child for you?" The noblewoman turned. The torchlight hit the girl's face. For one breath, everyone waited to see if the river would receive another body. The noblewoman's eyes narrowed, not angry, measuring. The girl's accent gave her away. The river wind lifted her hair, and still she didn't step back. "A nurse?" the woman repeated, tasting the word like a test. The girl nodded fast. "Yes, a woman who knows how to keep a baby quiet, who will not draw eyes." Her friend shifted. One hissed, "Don't!" But the noblewoman raised a hand. Quiet. Power. Even the torch seemed to obey. She looked down at the baby. His cry faded into a wet cough. His cheeks were cold from the river air. The noblewoman's jaw tightened like the child's weakness offended her. "Go," she said. The girl didn't run. She walked because running looks guilty. But the moment she hit the dark alley, she flew like an arrow. The mother was already moving, heart in her throat. She grabbed the girl's shoulders. "Did she?" "She said yes," the girl whispered. "Now, before she changes her mind." They hurried back, feet silent, breath loud. The mother pulled her veil low, hiding her face. She forced her hands to stop shaking. At the river, the noblewoman waited with the child in her arms, torchlight on his wet skin. She looked at the mother like she owned the night. "Take this child," she said, "and nurse him for me." Then she added the sentence that froze the mother's blood, "And I will pay you." The mother took the baby like she was taking someone else's property. She kept her face low. She didn't kiss him. Not yet. Kissing would confess what her mouth could not. The noblewoman placed a small pouch into her palm. Metal clinked. Payment. Proof. A chain made of coins. "Bring him to me when he is weaned," the woman said, calm as stone. "He will live in my house." The mother nodded, because nodding was safer than breathing. She turned away slowly, the baby pressed against her chest. His skin warmed fast, like he remembered her. His tiny fingers caught her cloth and held on. That grip almost broke her. Behind her, the attendants whispered. One laughed. Another stared too long, like she was memorizing the mother's steps. The mother walked back through the alley. Every sound felt louder now. Every doorway felt like an eye. At home, she shut the door and finally let her lips touch his forehead. Then she heard footsteps outside, heavy, official, stopping at her wall. She pressed the baby to her shoulder and held her breath. The footsteps outside didn't pass. They stopped right there, like the man knew this house had a secret, a hard knock, not a neighbor, not a friend. "Open," a voice said, "by order." The baby shifted, ready to cry. She rocked him once, sharp, like a warning. Her eyes scanned the room. No basket now, no reeds, no river to hide him, only walls. Another knock, louder. Dust fell from the ceiling. She moved fast. She slid the coin pouch under the sleeping mat. Then she grabbed a clay bowl and a rag and started wiping it like she'd been cleaning all night. Her hands worked. Her mind screamed, "Open!" She cracked the door just enough. A man filled the gap. Egyptian linen, a tablet in his hand, 2 soldiers behind him with spears pointed down but ready. He didn't look at her face. He looked past her shoulder. "How many live here?" he asked. "1," she lied. His eyes dropped to the baby's tiny hand peeking from her cloth. He smiled without warmth. "One doesn't have fingers like that." She felt the room tilt. One sound from the baby, and it was over. She tightened the cloth until his mouth pressed into her skin. Warm, quiet. "That hand means nothing," she said. Her voice came out steady, surprising even her. The official's smile stayed. "Then show me your arms," he said. "Women who work bricks have scars. Do you?" She lifted her sleeve, old cuts, real ones. Her years in mud did not lie. He leaned in anyway, eyes sharp. "And why do you smell like river reeds?" Her stomach turned. She reached down, slow, and pulled the coin pouch from under the cloth like it had always been there. "A palace lady paid me," she said, "to nurse a child she found by the water." The metal clinked. Even the soldiers looked. The official's eyes flicked to the coins, then back to the baby. Greed fought fear on his face. "Palace?" he said. "Which door? Which name?" She didn't answer fast enough. He stepped forward. "You're coming with me. Now." She didn't beg. Begging makes men feel powerful. Power makes them cruel. Instead, she lifted the baby higher, letting the torch catch his face. "If you take me," she said, "you take him too, and the palace will ask why her nurse vanished." The official hesitated. The word palace was a knife. It cut both ways. "Palace women don't pick river trash," he muttered. "He wasn't trash," she snapped. "Too fast, too real." She swallowed it back. "He is Her Mercy." The baby's eyes opened. He made a small sound like a question. One soldier shifted his spear. "Sir, we should go. Curfew." The official's jaw worked. He wanted the reward. He also feared the wrong enemy. Finally, he leaned close, voice low. "If you're lying, I will remember this door." He reached out and touched the baby's hand with 2 fingers like testing heat. The baby gripped him. The official flinched and yanked back, embarrassed. "Keep him quiet," he hissed, "and tomorrow I want the palace name." He turned to leave. Then from the alley a shout rose, angry, urgent. They found another basket. The shout hit the alley like a stone. The official froze mid-step. His head snapped toward the sound, hungry for proof that he wasn't chasing ghosts. "Where?" he barked. "Down by the bend," a voice answered. "A basket in the reeds. The baby's gone, but the cloth is Hebrew." The official's eyes slid back to her. Not belief. Calculation. If there was a basket with no child, then there was a child somewhere, and children meant rewards. He stepped inside her doorway without asking. The soldiers followed, filling the room with metal and breath. "Unwrap him," the official said. Her throat tightened. "He will cry." "Unwrap him." She shifted her body, turning the baby away. "The palace lady will be angry if he catches cold." The official moved closer. "If this is the same child, you die. If it isn't, you still might die. So do it." The baby stirred, sensing the change. His fingers clenched her cloth. Then the small girl, the sister, appeared at the back of the room, eyes wide. She had been listening, waiting. Without thinking, she blurted, "He's not from the bend. He's from the other side." Silence. The mother's blood went ice. One sentence, one crack in the wall. The official turned slowly toward the girl. "The other side," he said softly. "Show me." The girl realized what she'd done the moment the words left her mouth. She tried to swallow them back. Too late. The official pointed with his tablet like it was a blade. "Now." The mother stepped between them. "She's a child. She doesn't know." "She knows enough," he said, "and children don't lie well." He grabbed the girl's wrist, not hard, yet, just a grip that said, "I own the next step." The baby made a thin sound. The mother rocked him, desperate to keep him quiet, while her mind raced. If the girl led them to the riverbank, they might find footprints. If they found footprints, they'd ask who walked there. If they asked, the answers would kill. "Please," the mother whispered, forcing her voice to stay small. "Let her go. I'll tell you the palace name tomorrow." The official leaned closer. "Tomorrow is for people who have time." He pulled the girl toward the door. The soldiers cleared the way. The mother followed, trapped. Outside, the alley was cold and full of ears. Doors cracked open, then shut. Neighbors watched without looking. They reached the corner where the street met the river path. And there, under torchlight, lay a reed basket, empty, ripped open like an animal had eaten it. The official smiled. "Now," he said, "tell me where your basket is." The mother stared at the ripped basket like it was a warning from God. This could have been mine. Her knees wanted to fold, but she forced them straight. The official crouched and poked the reeds with his tablet. "Fresh," he said. "Somebody stood here." The girl's breathing turned fast. The mother squeezed her shoulder with one hand while holding the baby with the other, as if she could anchor both of them to the earth. "We found our basket days ago," the mother said. "Not here." The official looked up. "Then where?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Any place she named could become a grave. He stood, dusting his hands. "Walk," he ordered the girl. "Take me to the other side." The girl's eyes begged her mother. The mother gave her one small shake of the head. "Say nothing." They walked along the river edge. Torches bobbed in the distance. Other houses, other cries, other baskets. Then the baby's stomach growled, a low, wet sound, tiny but loud enough in fear. The official stopped. He turned toward the baby like a hawk turns toward movement. "That," he said, "is not a palace baby. Palace babies are quiet." The mother swallowed. "He's hungry." "No," the official said, stepping closer. "He's scared." He reached for the cloth. The mother backed up, and her heel hit mud. She slipped. The baby's head jolted, and he screamed. The scream cut through the night like a horn. Torches in the distance turned. Voices paused mid-sentence. Even the river seemed to hold still. The mother snapped the baby back to her chest, rocking hard, whispering nonsense sounds, anything to choke the cry. But the sound had already escaped. "You can't put it back in the basket." The official's eyes lit up, not with anger, with certainty. "There," he said, "that sound." One soldier lifted his spear slightly. Another looked over his shoulder, checking who else was coming. A woman's voice drifted from down the path. "What is it?" The official raised his hand, calling the attention like he owned it. "A Hebrew nurse," he announced, loud enough for the river to hear, "with a child." The mother's lungs burned. She could run, but running with a baby is slow. Running with a baby in mud is a sentence. The girl grabbed her mother's sleeve. "Mom!" The official stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Give him to me. You keep breathing. That's the deal." The mother's arms locked tighter. Then from the reeds behind them, a new sound. Soft at first, then clear. A splash. Another basket being pushed into the water. The official's head snapped toward it. Someone else was saving a baby tonight, and that meant distraction. The mother met her daughter's eyes. One look, one command without words. Now. They moved before the official could think. The girl yanked her mother's arm toward the reeds, away from the path. Mud sucked at their feet. The baby cried again, then choked on air, startled by the sudden run. "Stop!" the official shouted. A spear tip flashed in torchlight. The mother ducked, reeds slapping her face. Water sprayed her ankles, cold, deep enough to slow her. The girl pushed forward, finding a narrow gap between reed walls. She had watched this river all her life. She knew where the ground held, where it swallowed. Behind them, the soldiers crashed through the reeds like animals. The official stayed closer to the path, calling orders, trying to control a world made of water and darkness. The mother's breath came in knives. The baby's cries turned to thin whimpers. She whispered into his ear, "Quiet, please, please." A shadow jumped across their path, someone else fleeing, carrying something wrapped. Another mother. Another risk. The soldier chased that shadow first. He cursed, splashing after it. The official's torch swung wildly, searching. Light hit the girl's face for 1 second. "There!" the official roared. The girl grabbed her mother's hand and pulled her into thicker reeds, then stopped dead. In front of them, the water opened into a wider channel. No shallow mud, no easy crossing, only current. And on the far bank, more torchlights, waiting. The girl's hand tightened around her mother's. The current hissed, black and fast. One wrong step, and the baby would be gone. One right step, and they'd still be caught. Behind them, reeds shook. The soldiers were close now. The officials' torchlight stabbed through the green walls, turning water into knives. "We can't cross," the girl whispered. The mother's eyes darted along the bank. A fallen log? Stones? Anything. Nothing but slick mud and reeds. Then she saw it. An old fisherman's rope, half buried, tied to a broken stake. It trailed into the water like a lifeline no one trusted any more. She grabbed it. The rope was rough, wet, but real. "Hold me," she told the girl. The girl wrapped both arms around her mother's waist, bracing. The mother stepped into the channel. Cold punched her legs. The current grabbed her skirt and tried to pull her down. She leaned into the rope, inch by inch, teeth clenched, baby pressed high on her shoulder. A torch flared behind them. "Drop the child," the official screamed. The mother didn't look back. Looking back turns courage into panic. She reached the deepest point. Water climbed her ribs. The rope strained. The baby's face turned toward the sky, mouth open, and a soldier burst from the reeds and seized the rope with both hands. The rope snapped tight between them. One pull, and someone would fall. The soldier yanked the rope like he was hauling a fish. The mother's body lurched forward. Water slammed her chest. The baby's head bobbed once, dangerously close to the river. "No!" the girl screamed, grabbing the rope too. Her small hands burned against the wet fibers. The mother dug her feet into the mud below. It was soft. It gave. She felt herself sliding. The soldier pulled again, harder. "Give up," he shouted. "You can't win this." The mother's arm shook. The rope cut into her palms. Blood mixed with river water. She tasted metal in her mouth. Then the baby stopped crying. That silence was worse. It was the silence of a child holding his breath under fear. The mother felt his tiny chest press against her neck. Still, too still. Something in her snapped, not loud, not heroic, just final. She wrapped the rope once around her wrist and leaned back with all her weight, using the current instead of fighting it. The river pushed her sideways, dragging the soldier's grip off balance. He slipped, knee hitting mud. His spear clattered into the water. The girl pulled, screaming through clenched teeth. The soldier's hand slid down the rope. For 1 second, his eyes went wide. Then he lost it. He fell into the channel with a splash, arms flailing, mouth opening to shout. And the current took his voice. The mother didn't stop. She kept moving, rope burning her skin toward the far bank. But the torchlights there were already coming closer. The far bank wasn't empty. It never was. 2 men stood there with torches, their faces half lit, watching the water like they were waiting for something to wash up. When they saw her, they straightened. "One!" one shouted. "Over here!" The mother's feet finally found firmer ground. She crawled out of the channel, shaking, skirt heavy with water. The rope slipped from her bleeding hand and fell back into the dark. The girl followed, stumbling, coughing, dripping like a drowned bird. She clung to her mother's side. The men moved toward them, not soldiers. Their clothes were rough, like workers, but they carried short blades at their belts. Rivermen, night men. "Give us the child," the taller one said. His voice was flat like he'd said it before. The mother backed up, eyes wild. "No." He lifted his torch, looking at the baby's face. "Hebrew," he muttered. "They pay for these." The mother's stomach dropped. Of course, not everyone hunted for Pharaoh. Some hunted for silver. Behind them, on the other bank, the officials' shouts grew louder. More reeds shook. More torches crashed toward the water. The girl whispered, "Mom, we're trapped." The taller man stepped closer, hand drifting toward his blade. "If we take him, you live. If we don't, you all die." The mother tightened her grip until the baby's cloth creaked. Then a new voice cut through the night, calm and sharp. "Step away from them." A third man emerged from the shadows, older, scarred, holding no torch, only a sling wrapped around his wrist. And he was looking right at the rivermen like he knew their names. The rivermen stopped. The taller one's mouth tightened. "This isn't your business, Abner." So the mother had a name. That meant history. That meant danger. Abner stepped forward slowly, not rushing, like the night belonged to him. His eyes flicked to the baby, then to the blood on the mother's hands. "You're shaking down mothers now," Abner said. "That's low, even for you." The shorter riverman spat into the mud. "Pharaoh pays for Hebrew babies. Others pay too. We're not starving for pride." Abner's hand stayed near his sling. "You take one more step, and I break your knee before you blink." The taller one laughed, but it came out thin. "You're alone?" Abner nodded. "That's why you should be scared. When I come with friends, you don't even get a warning." The mother didn't understand this world, but she understood the pause. A pause is a door. She looked at the girl. "Move when I move." Behind them, the official's torchlight spilled onto the water. The reeds on the far side shook. A soldier shouted, "There, crossing." The rivermen turned their heads toward the sound, greedy and nervous at once. Abner didn't look away. He kept his eyes on them, steady. "Run," he whispered without moving his lips. The mother ran. Mud grabbed her feet. The baby bounced against her chest. The girl sprinted beside her, sobbing but silent. Abner stepped sideways, blocking the rivermen's path, and then the taller one snapped, drawing his blade. Steel flashed. The taller riverman lunged at Abner fast and low. Abner didn't step back. He stepped in, catching the attacker's wrist with his left hand like he'd done it 100 times. The blade scraped Abner's forearm. Blood beaded, but he didn't flinch. His right hand snapped the sling free. A stone was already in it. The shorter riverman charged, torch held high, hoping fire would scare him. Abner's sling whirled once, quiet, deadly. The stone flew and smashed into the torchman's cheek. The torch hit the mud with a wet hiss. Darkness swallowed half the bank. The taller attacker tried to twist his wrist free. Abner slammed his elbow down. A crack, a scream. "Next time," Abner growled, "you lose the hand." The riverman fell back, clutching his arm, eyes wide with shock. Abner turned toward the water. The official's torchlight was closer now, bouncing as men ran. He could hear armor, boots, angry breathing. He looked after the mother and girl, two shadows disappearing into reeds and night. Then he did something reckless. He grabbed the fallen torch, lifted it high, and waved it over the river like a signal. "Over here!" he shouted, making his voice sound like a soldier's. The official answered instantly, "Hold them!" Abner smiled once, grim. He had just placed himself between Pharaoh and the child. The mother didn't stop running until her lungs felt like they'd rip. Reeds gave way to narrow streets, then to back alleys where the air smelled like old bread and ash. The girl nearly fell twice, but fear kept her upright. Behind them, shouts echoed, closer, then farther. Abner's voice had pulled the hunt away like a hook in the dark. They slipped into a low doorway and found a storage room half collapsed, stacked with broken baskets and damp ropes. The mother shut the door with her shoulder and listened. Silence. Then a soft cough. The baby's cough. She unwrapped him just enough to see his lips. Pale, too pale, river cold, still lived in him. The girl whispered, "Will he die?" The mother couldn't answer. She pressed her mouth to his chest, willing warmth into him. She rubbed his tiny feet until her hands cramped. Outside, footsteps passed. Not one pair. Many. A man's voice said, "They crossed here. Search every shed." The mother held the baby tighter and looked around the room. No exit, no window, only a pile of old baskets in the corner. She slid behind them, pulling the girl with her, and covered the baby with reeds and cloth. The door latch lifted. Light spilled in, and the first face that appeared wasn't a soldier. It was a woman, Hebrew, wearing the mark of a midwife, her eyes locked on the mother, and she whispered, "What have you done?" The midwife stepped inside and shut the door behind her like she owned the darkness. The mother didn't move. She couldn't. One scream outside, and the room would flood with spears. "What have you done?" the midwife repeated, softer now but sharper. The mother lifted her chin. "I kept him alive." The midwife's eyes dropped to the baby's pale lips, the wet cloth, the reeds. Her face tightened like she was counting a cost in her head. Outside, boots scraped stone. A soldier laughed. "Check the sheds. Pharaoh pays for screams." The girl started to cry, silent tears only. The mother covered the girl's mouth with her hand. The midwife knelt. She touched the baby's chest. The baby flinched, barely, alive, but fading. "You crossed the river?" she whispered. The mother nodded. The midwife stood and looked at the pile of baskets. Then she looked at the mother's bleeding hands. Then at the door. "I can hide you," she said, "but if I do, they will come to my house next." A pause. Then she added, "And if I don't, he dies tonight." The latch lifted again, this time from the outside. A man's voice called, "Open up." The midwife didn't panic. She moved like someone who had lied to death before. She lifted a basket from the pile and shoved it against the door, not to block it, just to slow it. Then she turned and put a finger to her lips. The mother's eyes were wide. The baby's breathing was thin. The girl clung to her mother's skirt. "Open!" the voice outside shouted again. The latch rattled. The midwife walked to the door, calm, smoothing her veil, fixing her face into something tired and harmless. She pulled the basket away and cracked the door. A soldier leaned in, torch high. His eyes swept the room fast. "Anyone here?" The midwife yawned on purpose. "Only me. I'm storing cords for the birthing stools. You want rope? Take rope. Just don't bring your stink inside." The soldier sneered. "We're looking for a woman with a baby." The midwife tilted her head. "A baby?" She let her voice drip with annoyance. "In a room full of ropes? Do you think I like noise? Go to the river. That's where your screams come from." The soldier hesitated. He hated her tone, but he didn't want midwife trouble. Midwives had friends. Midwives knew secrets. He spat into the mud and stepped back. "If you're hiding one, you die." The midwife smiled without warmth. "Then you better be sure." He left. But before the midwife could close the door, another shadow pushed forward, an official's silhouette. And he said quietly, "Move aside." The midwife's smile vanished. For a heartbeat, she stood still, like even her courage needed air. The official stepped closer, torchlight catching his tablet, his clean linen, his eyes that didn't blink much. He wasn't here for noise. He was here for patterns. "I know this room," he said. "You don't store rope here. You store what you don't want found." The midwife spread her hands. "Search it. You'll find dust and bad luck." He didn't move past her yet. He listened. The mother behind the baskets pressed the baby into her chest until his face disappeared. The baby's breath tickled her skin. Too loud in her mind. The official tilted his head. "Do you hear that?" The midwife laughed once, fake. "Hear what? Your ego?" He pushed past her. The midwife grabbed his sleeve. "You have no right." He shook her off with a sharp motion, not violence, but contempt. He walked deeper into the shed, torch sweeping baskets, ropes, broken wood. The girl's eyes went huge. She was about to bolt. The mother mouthed, "Don't!" The official's torchlight slid over the pile where they hid. The reed tips cast thin shadows like fingers. He stopped. Slowly, he crouched. His hand reached toward the top basket. The baby's tiny fist twitched under the cloth. The basket shifted, and the official's eyes locked on that movement. "Found you," he whispered. The official hooked 2 fingers under the cloth and lifted. The basket stack trembled. The mother lunged without thinking, slapping his hand away. Too late. The torchlight hit the baby's face, wide eyes, wet lashes, a mouth that opened ready to wail. The official's lips curled. "So," he said softly, "the river didn't take you." The midwife stepped in fast. "He's mine," she lied. "A sick child. I'm treating him." The official didn't even look at her. He stared at the mother. "You crossed water. You bought time. You even hired a midwife." His voice was calm, which made it worse. "Who helped you?" The mother tightened the wrap and rocked once, hard, like she could rock the world back. The girl shook beside her, shaking her head no. Outside, Boots returned, more than before. The official raised his tablet. "Write this house," he told the soldier at the door, "and bring me a cart." The midwife's face drained. A cart meant public. Public meant the palace. And the palace meant she would lose him forever. The baby's chest rose fast, and then the official reached for him again, this time with both hands. The mother twisted away, turning her shoulder into a shield. The official's hands caught cloth instead of skin. He yanked, ripping the wrap loose. The baby's cry exploded, full, raw, impossible to ignore. Outside, the soldiers reacted like dogs to a whistle. Boots surged. Torches flared brighter at the doorway. "Take them," the official said, still calm. The midwife lunged, grabbing the official's wrist with both hands. "No!" Her voice cracked. "Not this one." He shoved her back. She stumbled into the baskets, reeds spilling across the floor like dry bones. The girl screamed once, then clamped her own mouth shut, eyes huge, tears falling. A soldier stepped in and seized the mother's arm. His grip was iron. The mother jerked, trying to keep the baby's head supported. "Careful!" she shouted. "You'll break his neck!" The soldier didn't care. He pulled her toward the door. The official leaned close to the baby, studying him like a mark on a list. "You'll live," he murmured, "just not with her." The mother's vision blurred. She kicked backward, heel connecting with the soldier's shin. He cursed and loosened his grip for half a second. The midwife shouted, "Now, run!" The mother didn't think. She threw her weight forward, ripped free, and bolted into the night. Baby screaming, girl following, straight into torchlight and voices, because the only way out was through them. The night hit her like a wall of noise, shouts, torches, men turning. The baby's scream pointed at her like an arrow. A soldier stepped into her path. She didn't slow. She slammed her shoulder into him. He staggered, surprised by a woman who didn't act like prey. The girl darted under an arm, small and fast. "This way!" she cried, then bit the sound back. They ran along the alley where laundry lines sagged between walls. Cloth snapped against their faces. The mother kept the baby's head tucked in the crook of her elbow, praying his neck held. Behind them, the official's voice cut through. "Don't kill the child. Take the women." Torches split, fanning out like hunters around a fire. Shadows jumped on the walls. They reached a dead end, 2 walls and a stack of bricks. The girl froze. The mother's eyes caught a low opening behind the bricks. A drain tunnel, half hidden, smelling of river rot. Too small for a man in armor, barely big enough for a woman with a baby. She dropped to her knees and shoved bricks aside, fingers screaming in pain. The baby cried into her chest, hot breath and panic. Footsteps pounded closer. The girl slid in first, scraping elbows. "Hurry!" The mother lowered the baby into the tunnel, then pushed herself after him, belly to stone. A torchlight flooded the alley behind them, and a soldier's hand grabbed her ankle. Her ankle twisted as the soldier pulled. Pain shot up her leg. The tunnel scraped her ribs. The baby was ahead of her now, in the girl's arms, crying into darkness. "Got her!" the soldier shouted. The mother clawed at the stone, nails breaking. She kicked once, missed, kicked again. Heel hit his wrist. He grunted, but didn't let go. His torchlight poured into the tunnel mouth, turning the damp stones orange. The girl whispered, frantic, "Mom, I can't. He's heavy." The baby's cry turned wet. He was choking on fear and stale air. The mother made a choice, a cruel one. She shoved the baby farther into the tunnel with her forearm, pushing him toward safety, even as the soldier's grip tightened on her ankle. "Go!" she hissed at the girl. "Don't stop!" The girl crawled, sobbing, dragging the baby deeper. The sound of his crying faded. Small mercy, big loss. The soldier yanked harder, trying to pull the mother back out like a sack. Her dress tore on a stone edge. Cold air hit her thigh. Shame and panic flared. She reached behind her, fingers searching the tunnel floor, finding only slime. Then something sharp, a broken reed stake, splintered like a knife. She grabbed it. The soldier pulled again, and she drove the splinter into his hand. He screamed. His grip loosened. But the scream did what the baby's cry couldn't. It summoned the others. Boots thundered toward the dead end, and the tunnel suddenly filled with light. The soldier stumbled back, clutching his bleeding palm. The mother didn't waste the breath of thanks. She shoved forward, crawling fast, elbows scraping stone. Behind her, voices collided. "Seal it! Pull her out! Get a spear in there!" Torchlight stabbed into the tunnel again, brighter now. 2 torches, then 3. Shadows jumped like monsters on the wet walls. The tunnel narrowed. The mother's shoulders barely fit. Her dress snagged. She tore it free with a savage pull. Skin burned. She kept moving. Ahead, the girl whispered, "It forks." The mother's chest tightened. A fork meant choice. Choice meant regret. Left passage, lower, wetter, the stink of sewage. Right passage, slightly higher, a faint draft. Air from somewhere. "Right," the mother gasped. They turned. The baby whimpered, weak now, his cries swallowed by stone. Behind them, metal scraped rock. A spear tip entered the tunnel, probing like an insect's sting. It struck the wall inches from the mother's calf. The mother pushed the girl forward. "Faster!" The spear jabbed again, closer. Torchlight surged. Then the tunnel suddenly dropped, a short fall into a deeper channel. The girl slid down first, landing hard, nearly losing the baby. The mother followed, twisting to keep her child from hitting stone. They hit the lower channel with a splash. Cold water climbed her knees, and in the dark ahead, a barred grate blocked the way out. The grate wasn't just metal. It was a decision made long ago. Iron bars thick as a man's wrist, rusted, bolted into stone. No door, no hinge, just no. The girl pressed her fingers through the bars. "I see streetlight," she whispered. "We're close." Close meant cruel. The outside world was right there and unreachable. The baby sagged in her arms, too quiet now. The mother's fear sharpened into something colder. She touched his cheek. Cool. His lips trembled. River cold had followed them into the tunnel. Behind them, voices echoed louder. The soldiers were crawling in now. The scrape of armor on stone, the drip of torches, the curse of men who hate tight spaces. "Back!" one shouted. "There's water." Another voice, official, calm, answered, "Then flood it. Smoke them out." Smoke. In a tunnel. The mother's stomach dropped. She scanned the grate. Rust. Bolts. A stone seam near the left edge, cracked from age. She shoved the girl aside and slammed her shoulder into the bars. Pain shot through her collarbone. The bars didn't move. Again. A dull clang. Nothing. Torchlight flickered behind them. Closer. The mother wrapped her shawl around her fist and struck the cracked stone seam with the splintered reed stake. Once. Twice. The stone flaked. A thin line widened. Air hissed through it. Fresh, outside air. Then a cough echoed from behind them. Not soldier cough, a child's cough. The mother froze. There was someone else in the tunnel with them. The cough came again, small, dry, close. The girl spun, hugging the baby tighter. "Who's there?" No answer, just water dripping and a soft shuffle like bare feet trying not to splash. The mother lifted the reed stake like a knife. "Show yourself," she whispered. A thin shape stepped into the weak torch glow bouncing off the water. A boy, maybe 6, skin dark with grime, eyes huge. He wore a ripped linen shirt tied with string, no sandals. He held a bundle against his chest, cloth stained and limp. Not a toy, too heavy. "You're not soldiers," he said, voice shaking. "No," the mother said. "We're running from them." The boy's lower lip trembled. "They took my mother." He looked at the grate. "I've been here 2 nights. 2 nights in this cold." The mother's anger flashed hot, then died into urgency. Behind them, armor scraped closer. A torch flared. Someone cursed at the water. The official's voice echoed, calm as a sentence. "Light smoke at the entrance. Slow. Let it crawl." The boy's eyes widened. He lifted his bundle a little, like offering proof of pain. "My sister. She stopped breathing." The girl gasped. The mother's chest tightened, but she didn't let herself fall apart. Not now. She pointed at the cracked seam by the grate. "Help me," she said to the boy. "Press here. Push when I push." The boy nodded fast, desperate to matter. They braced, and the first thin ribbon of smoke slid into the tunnel, tasting the air like a serpent. Smoke crept along the ceiling first, thin and curious. Then it thickened, sinking into their throats. The boy coughed hard, clutching his bundle like it could still hear him. The mother pressed her shoulder to the cracked seam. "Push," she whispered. They pushed together. Stone grated. The grate didn't move, but the cracked seam crumbled a little more. A pebble fell out and splashed. Fresh air kissed their faces for half a second. "Again?" the girl rasped, voice already rough. The mother struck the seam with the reed stake. Chip, chip. Each ooder sent pain into her wrist, but the gap widened to 2 fingers, then 3. Behind them, the tunnel glowed orange. Soldiers were closer now, their torches turning smoke into a choking fog. "Hold!" a soldier shouted. "I see them!" The mother shoved her hand into the gap and felt open space, not street, a side cavity between walls. "Boy," she said, grabbing his arm, "your bundle, give it to me." His eyes flared with anger. "No, I'm not stealing," she snapped. "I'm saving what's left of you." Another cough, another wave of smoke. He hesitated, then handed it over, shaking. The mother jammed the bundle through the gap into the cavity. Then she pushed her own shoulder in, widening it with her body, using bone as leverage. Stone cracked with a sharp pop. The opening tore wider, just enough for a child. "Girl," she said, breath burning, "take the baby. Go first." The girl stared. "What about you?" The mother didn't answer. She heard the soldier's boot splash into the lower channel, and she knew she had seconds. The girl crawled into the gap sideways, baby tucked tight against her chest. Cloth scraped stone. The baby whimpered once, then went quiet, like he understood. The boy followed, dragging himself through with elbows and knees, eyes squeezed shut against dust. The mother held the stone apart with her shoulder, teeth clenched, lungs screaming for clean air. "Go," she hissed. "Don't look back." The girl vanished into the cavity. The boy's bare feet disappeared after her. The mother tried to follow, but the opening wasn't wide enough for her hips. She shoved harder. Stone bit her ribs. The gap refused. A splash behind her. Boots in water. A torch flared close. "There!" a soldier shouted. The mother turned just enough to see the spear tip rise. She threw herself flat, covering the gap with her body like a lid. The spear struck stone beside her head with a clang, showering grit into her hair. The official stepped into view through smoke, face calm in the orange haze. "You're brave," he said, almost polite, "but you're alone now." He reached down, grabbing her shoulder, trying to roll her away from the opening. She fought like an animal, elbows slipping on slime, fingers searching for anything to grip. The official leaned close. "Where is the child?" She spat in his face. For one heartbeat, his calm cracked. He wiped his cheek with slow disgust, then nodded to the soldiers. "Pull her out," he said, "and break the grate. We'll take whatever's behind it." The mother's stomach turned to ice, because behind that opening were the children. Hands grabbed her arms, 2 soldiers, one on each side, hauling like she was cargo. Her nails tore against stone as she tried to cling to the gap. "No!" she screamed, her first full scream of the night. The official stepped over her, calm again. He turned toward the grate like it was a locked chest. "Break it!" A soldier raised a stone hammer and slammed it into the rusted bars. The sound rang through the tunnel. Metal shuddered. The mother kicked, catching a shin. Someone cursed and struck her ribs with a fist. Air left her lungs in a sharp grunt. Smoke thickened. Torches coughed. The tunnel felt smaller, like it was closing its throat. The official knelt close to her face. "Tell me the palace name," he said. "Tell me who paid you." She laughed once, dry, insane. "You're afraid of her," she wheezed. His eyes narrowed. "I'm afraid of no woman." "Then say her name," she whispered. He hesitated. Just a flicker. Enough. The soldiers hit the grate again. A bar cracked loose with a snap, splashing into the water. The official stood. "Take the opening," he ordered. One soldier leaned toward the cracked seam, the hidden cavity. He shoved his arm in, feeling around. In the darkness beyond, the girl held the baby's mouth shut with her tiny hand. The boy pressed against the wall, shaking. The soldier's fingers brushed cloth. He smiled. "Found?" A stone flew from the dark cavity and smashed into his temple. He dropped like his bones turned to water, and from the gap a new figure crawled out. Small, fast, furious. Not the girl, not the boy. Someone else had been hiding in there. The small figure burst from the gap like a spark. A girl, older than the sister, maybe 12, hair cropped short, face streaked with soot. She moved like she'd lived in tunnels, like darkness was her home. She didn't look at the mother. She didn't look at the baby. She looked only at the official. Her hand snapped out and grabbed the fallen soldier's torch. She swung it, low, hard, into the water at the official's feet. Steam hissed. Smoke surged. "Blind them!" she shouted, voice sharp as flint. The mother didn't know her, but she understood the command. She sucked in a burning breath and kicked her legs, thrashing water toward the torches. The flames sputtered. Shadows deepened. The official cursed as smoke swallowed his face. "Hold her!" he barked. The tunnel turned into a coughing pit. Soldiers rubbed eyes, shouting to each other, losing direction. The unknown girl slid back toward the gap, yanking the Hebrew sister with her. "This way!" The sister hesitated, then crawled, baby tight. The boy followed, terrified but moving. The mother tried to crawl too, but a soldier's grip stayed locked on her arm. She looked at the opening, her child disappearing into darkness, and something inside her split. "Go!" she screamed to them. The official wiped his eyes, furious. He pointed through smoke. "After the children!" 2 soldiers lunged toward the gap. The mother, trapped, did the only thing left. She wrapped her free hand around a loose grate bar in the water and ripped it up like a club. The grate bar was heavier than it looked. Rust slicked her palm. She lifted it anyway, muscles screaming, and swung. The first soldier, lunging for the gap, took the hit across his forearm. Bone thudded. He yelled and stumbled back into the water. The second soldier hesitated, just long enough. The unknown girl used that moment. She shoved the sister deeper into the cavity, then turned and threw another stone. It cracked off a torch handle. Flames sputtered and died. Darkness rushed in. The official shouted, "Light it again!" But in smoke and dark, voices lose power. The mother yanked her arm free as the soldier flinched from the club. She crawled toward the opening, dragging one knee that wouldn't listen anymore. The official saw her move and grabbed her ankle. Same trap again. "Not you!" he hissed. She kicked, wild, and the great bar slipped from her hand, splashing away. The unknown girl locked eyes with the mother for the first time. No pity, only urgency. She reached out, seized the mother's wrist, and pulled. Stone scraped flesh. The mother's shoulder wedged in the gap. She pushed, teeth clenched, feeling ribs grind against rock. Behind her, the official yanked hard, trying to tear her back out. For one brutal second, the mother was stretched between two worlds, soldiers and children, smoke and air. Then the stone edge crumbled. Her body slid through. The official's hand snapped empty. She fell into the dark cavity, gasping, coughing, alive. But the official's voice followed, cold and certain. "Block that hole. They can't go far. The city has walls." The cavity wasn't a room. It was a thin space between stones, crawling width, slanting upward like a secret throat. The air was better, but it still smelled of damp earth and old fear. The unknown girl led without asking. She crawled fast, one hand on the wall, counting turns by touch. The sister followed, baby pressed tight. The boy crawled behind, still clutching his bundle, even though it was gone now. His arms remembered the weight. The mother brought up the rear, dragging her bad knee, listening to the tunnel behind them. At first, only distant shouting, then metal on stone. They were blocking the hole, like the official promised. But blocking doesn't mean stopping. A muffled thud. Another, a rhythm, like men stacking stones. The unknown girl whispered, "If they seal it, we die in here." The mother swallowed smoke-burned spit. "Where does it go?" "Up," the girl said, "to the river market drains. But there's a gate." A gate again. Always a gate. They reached a narrow bend and stopped. Ahead, faint light fell through a cracked wooden grate overhead. Street level. Voices above. Normal voices. Laughing. Trading. Freedom. Inches away. The unknown girl pushed up. The wood creaked. Above, someone shouted, "Rats! Big ones!" Footsteps approached from the street, and behind them, from the sealed hole direction, a new sound echoed through stone. A heavy iron tool striking rock. Not blocking anymore, breaking in. The unknown girl froze, palm pressed to the wood. "Don't move," she whispered. Above them, sandals scuffed. A man's voice complained, "I swear the drains are alive." Another voice laughed. "Then stomp harder." A heavy stomp hit the grate. Dust rained down onto the baby's cloth. The sister flinched, but held steady. Hand over the baby's mouth, eyes squeezed shut. The mother listened to the back tunnel. The iron strikes were closer now, slower, methodical. They weren't guessing. They were coming. The unknown girl slid her fingers between two warped planks. She pushed up a hair. Light sliced into the crawl space, bright enough to hurt. She peeked. "Market," she mouthed. "Fish stalls. 2 guards near the canal." "Guards? Always?" She looked at the mother. "We need noise. Not from us. From there." The mother's mind raced. Then she remembered the pouch of coins. Still under her mat? No. Gone. Lost in the tunnel fight. Nothing to buy help. Only risk to spend. The unknown girl reached to her belt and pulled out a small clay bead, oiled, wrapped in cloth. A slingstone, but hollow. "What is that?" the sister breathed. "Fire," the girl whispered. Before the mother could stop her, the girl shoved the bead through a crack in the grate and flicked it into the market straw above. A soft pop, a hiss. Smoke rose up there. Men shouted, "Fire!" Feet ran, baskets fell, water splashed. The guards above turned, distracted. The unknown girl smiled once. "Now," she said, and she kicked the grate upward. Wood snapped loud enough to wake the river. The grate flew up and slammed against a fish cart. Rotten smell rushed down like a wave. Daylight hit their faces, too bright, too honest. The unknown girl popped up first, fast, scanning. She looked like a street rat to the market. Nobody questioned street rats during a fire. She grabbed the sister's arm and pulled her up. The sister climbed with the baby tight, eyes darting everywhere. The boy came next, blinking, trembling in the noise. The mother tried to rise. Her bad knee screamed. She slipped, nearly dropping back into the hole. A merchant saw her. "Hey, what?" The unknown girl cut in, shouting over the chaos, "Fire in the straw! Move!" People shoved past. Fish water splashed. Someone screamed about their coins. Perfect cover. But guards don't run like merchants. Guards look for causes. One guard turned toward the broken grate. He saw the mother's hands on the edge. His eyes narrowed. "You?" he barked, pushing through bodies. The mother hauled herself up, breath ragged, baby safe in the sister's arms now. She limped behind them as the unknown girl led them between stalls. The guard followed, hand on his baton. "Stop, now!" They slipped behind hanging nets and stacked baskets. For a second, the guard lost sight. Then the boy bumped a jar. Clay shattered, heads turned. The guard lunged toward the sound. The unknown girl spun, grabbed a fish knife off a table, and held it low. Not to attack, to threaten. "Back off," she hissed to the guard, eyes hard. The guard laughed once. "Little thief!" And he reached for her. The guard's hand shot out. The unknown girl slashed, not at his skin, but at his belt strap. Leather snapped. His baton dropped, clattering on wet stone. He cursed and swung anyway, open-handed. She ducked and rammed her shoulder into his stomach. He staggered back into a fish tub. Water and scales exploded up his chest. People laughed, then screamed again as the fire panic returned. "Move!" the girl barked. They ran. The sister clutched the baby so tight her arm shook. The baby's head bobbed with each step, but he stayed quiet, eyes wide, watching a world of light after days of dark. The mother limped faster than her knee allowed, pain turning her vision white at the edges. The boy kept close, small hand on her shawl like an anchor. They reached the canal edge where boats rocked. A low cargo skiff loaded with reeds and clay jars bumped the dock. Abner. He stood there, breathing hard, a fresh cut on his brow, sling still on his wrist. Alive, somehow. He saw the baby first. His eyes softened for one breath, then hardened again as he spotted the guard splashing out of the tub, shouting for help. Abner grabbed a pole and shoved the skiff closer. "Get in," he said. The unknown girl jumped aboard, then hauled the sister in. The mother stepped onto the dock plank, and the guard's hand closed on her shawl from behind. The guard yanked her shawl so hard her throat snapped back. Pain flashed. Her bad knee buckled. For a split second, she saw the baby's face, safe in the sister's arms. Then the world became hands and noise. Abner didn't shout. He moved. He swung the long pole low and hooked the guard's ankle. The guard fell, splashing into canal water. His grip tore the shawl clean off the mother's shoulders. "In!" Abner barked. The unknown girl grabbed the mother's wrist and hauled. The mother hit the skiff on her side, ribs screaming, but she was inside. Abner shoved off with all his weight. The skiff lurched, jars clinking, reeds sliding. Water opened under them. The guard clawed at the dock, screaming for help. Merchants scattered. Smoke drifted over the canal like a dirty veil. Then Abner's eyes lifted past the market. Down the canal, a larger boat turned into view. Clean wood, armed men, and a royal cloth banner snapping in the wind. Abner's jaw tightened. "They're not chasing you anymore," he said. He looked at the baby. "They're chasing him,"